Will Bryant, April 9th, 1982 to March 6th, 2008. Will was in many bands in his time, from Enmity to Acid Masticators, Misguided Hatred, Demon Semen, Digital Delusions, and Babylonian Bloodbath. March 5th, 2008. A band of brothers known as Babylonian Bloodbath were in a small house in Jerome, Idaho, recording their 6th song as a band, Hear Our Cries. March 6th, 2008, Will Bryant took his life into his own hands. We are here today to remember Will, to tell some stories, to laugh and smile just like he would have wanted us to, and to remember some of the incredible music that he left behind for us to enjoy.
A good memory? It's hard to say with him. There's a lot of good memories of Will. I remember one time we rented this new studio place in Twin. I can't remember the name of it, but I remember he was really good about getting us all together and getting to record music. And when it came to his parts, he was the best improviser. Like, he was mainly known as a guitar player, but he would sing with Brad. But I know in one of our songs, if you've ever listened to Misguided Hatred, you could hear where it sounded like he was choking himself while he was singing the song. He was actually choking himself to finish the song, which was funny. I was like, oh my God.
Great memory is he had I don't remember where he'd been out to, but he came home one night and it was just very unseasonably cold, and we were living in a small house. It was 2 bedrooms, so Will and I essentially shared a bed. Usually we kind of slept in shifts, but he was supposed to be out for the night, but he came home and he was literally just bone chilled, and he crawls up in bed with me, just this ice cube in bed, and he's like, will you snuggle me? I'm like, no, I'm not even touching you. Stay away from me. He's like, I'll buy you a 40 ounce of beer if you snuggle me. I'm like, and I warmed his ass up as he just lay there and just shivered and shook the bed.
Good memory I have of Will is I had him trapped under the bed, afraid to come out. Because I was on top and I was just going to snatch him up when he came out. And so that got old, just waiting for him to come out. So I got up and started jumping on the bed because I got bored. And then the box spring broke. And I was still jumping on top of Will's body while he was like under the mattress. And then my mom walked in and just whooped my ass. Like 11.
He was maybe 9 years old. It was Christmas time. And we would always try to find a good use for a little bit of money, for other people. And he came up to me about 2 weeks before Christmas, and he said, I don't want anything for Christmas this year, but I want us to take all our money, okay, which was maybe $100, $150, and go buy blankets for the people under the bridge. And we did. We went to Shopko. We got $8 and $10 blankets on sale for $8. And we spent that amount of money, and he took them down to the bridge and gave them to people and kids. And that, I was so proud of him. I was. He was good-hearted, always. He was good-hearted.
A good memory I have of Will was the first time we started hanging out. We were in the 5th grade. Will actually, at the time, looked like a white Steve Urkel. He had these big old Urkel glasses. It's kind of a nerdy little kid, and kind of what brought us together was our love for video games. So we would play games together, and he'd always talk me into coming over to his house. He'd be like, "Oh, I got the new Mortal Kombat 2 or something," and we'd be like, "All right, let's hang out and play some games." So basically, whoever had the newest, hottest game of the moment, that's the person's house that we were hanging out, because we'd just get together and play some games together. When me and Will first started playing music together, at the time I was actually playing drums for him, and well, we went through a few different band names. We tried to call ourselves Enmity for a little bit, and then we found out another band already had that name, so then we ended up going to Acid Masticators, which was quite the fun times, some really good times. One time we did play a little house show, and we tried painting ourselves up with highlighter and just being really crazy and having fun. Then years down the road, as we were hanging out like we did so many times, eventually one day Will realized that I had the ability to do what we called gutter rolls, which is like inward singing. And once he realized that I could do that, he was like, "You're the new singer for our band." And that's when Will decided that I was going to start singing in our newest project, which we decided to call Babylonian Bloodbath. Our first song, Enemy of Everybody, was a song about how hate from one another, if you hate someone and they hate you, then you are essentially no better than those who hate.
A funny memory. I remember one time we were hanging out at a party, and the cops showed up, and they were talking to a few of us, and we were hanging out. I can't remember if the garage was attached or detached to this house, but we were hanging out in the garage, and when the cops showed up, he had a bunch of weed, and he hid it in a spot, and we were out talking to the cops, and they said, "You guys need to get out of here, you know, pretty much let us go." And before we took off, he's all, "Hey, hold on," and he snuck off basically behind their backs, went back in the garage like a ninja, grabbed the weed, got back in the car, and said, "Let's get the hell out of here." We're like, "Oh my God, we're gonna get in trouble." I thought we were gonna go to jail for sure, but he wasn't going to leave his weed behind, that's for sure.
We were over at our friend Nasty Nate's, and we were playing Dungeons and Dragons. We played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons together, and Will sitting there, but Will had fallen asleep at some point during the session. And Will's sitting there, and he's sleeping, and his mouth is kind of open. And we're kind of talking and making jokes, and we see a fly land on his face. And it walks up to his lips, and Will goes, and ate the fly, and everybody's just like, "Oh!" It was just very impromptu. Just never saw that coming. I mean, we were staying in, it was a 2-car garage we converted into like the ultimate clubhouse for gaming. There was a huge entertainment system, great stereo, big TV, many video game systems. But yes, that just caught everyone off guard. Will eating the fly.
One morning he was asleep, probably it was past noon, and I'd been up drinking since like 8 or 9 in the morning. It was my day off, and he wouldn't probably get up till 2 o'clock or something anyway. So I just ran in there and started jumping on his bed and rapping to him while I was jumping. I was like, "Come on, Will, get the fuck up! Come on, get the fuck up! Come on, get the fuck up!" And he finally got out and partied with me instead of sleeping all day.
Okay, I had always told the boys, Randy, Bob, Willie, when we lived in Virginia before we moved out here, that they could not beat on each other. And I usually didn't really beat on them too much or whip them unless they drew blood. And then they were up for grabs, And he and Bob had been just nagging and nagging back and forth. They're 2 years different, and they were just picking constantly. Rand wasn't really in it. He was 14 or so. And Bob was about 8, and Will was about 5. And Willie was real little when he was, Will was real little when he was a young kid from being a little sick baby. And Bob was kind of hefty. He's a well-built kid. And they finally plucked my last nerve, and I said, both of you, get out in the backyard, deal with it, beat each other up. Whoever wins is the winner. We're not going to deal with this anymore. And out goes Bob, I'm going to beat his ass, And out goes Will, like, had that look, And in came Bob, and in came Will. It was so funny. The little boy beat up the big boy then. But he was determined. I think he was always determined,
A funny memory I have of Will is the time we were in junior high school and we went to a school dance for Halloween. He was the Green Power Ranger and I was Wayne from Wayne's World. It was quite a blast. This is the first time I ever danced with a girl, but at the school dance they played the song The Humpty Dance by the Digital Underground, and they were doing a dance competition, and Will in his Green Power Ranger suit just started busting a move and going crazy breakdancing and just being Will, and sure shit he won the dance off and got a Digital Underground CD, and at the time that was like pretty hot shit, so it was a really fun memory of Will. There was a lot of them. So our song Pit We Have Dug was a song about being trapped in society like a net, like a cage that held you down that you couldn't escape from.
My favorite memories of Will is just his passion for life, friends, music. When things were good, he'd like to just hang out and have a good time and be happy and be funny and make people laugh, and just never a dull moment. He's just really good. I don't know, he's really good and articulate with words. If you can understand Will grammar and understand him at all, then you would know what I'm talking about. It's just, he's a one-of-a-kind soul. It's just, there's too many good memories to say. It's just, when he knows how to have a good time, that's for sure. I just miss playing music with him.
Oh, we grew up in Virginia. We went on we kind of lived downtown, but our dad lived in more of the suburban area, which by that point was very underdeveloped. It hadn't been fully like processed yet. So behind our house was pretty much almost like a 2 or 3 mile deep by about 5 to 7 mile wide, just big stretch of woods. And we would just go for these crazy walks and adventures in these woods, as kids do. There was a creek that ran through it. I'm glad we didn't drink from it because I found out it was fed from a sewer system. It just the kid stuff, And I mean, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons with him since he was old enough for me to give him a couple choices and put a dice in his hand and let him roll it. No, I still play to this day, 36 years later. So all the time we spent, and we would spend just days and days and days playing. He'd come over to my house when we lived across it. Like my mom had moved back into town. She moved across the street from where my girlfriend at the time and I were living. And he would come over every night and we'd stay up till pretty much the crack of dawn playing. One night, this like cat spider or hobo spider, I think it was, came whipping out from under my girlfriend's hope chest and just came charging right at us. And the cat just jumps like off the bookcase and just lands on it. Just, wow! We're just like, yeah, go cat!
Had a lot of fun as kids. Just doing hood rat shit and playing in the yard and stuff. Then when we kicked it when we were older, he's just a fun guy to be around. He made everything fun.
Just how nice he always was to me. Because we were best of enemies and best of friends. We were, it's like, we could bitch at each other until we turned blue because neither of us would ever give up. And yet, favorite memory ever, I had a blood clot. And he was, I think, about 14, maybe 15. And my sisters, I had been at my parents' and was at my sisters, and it was serious. It was very serious and life-threatening. And he had been staying with Rand, because my sister was not real fond of him and her husband, and so they really didn't want him there. And so he'd been staying with Rand, and one night he just comes to the door, and he said, "I'm going to sleep in your room tonight." He goes, "I just have this feeling like you might need me." And he comes in the room, where I was staying, makes a little pallet on the side of the bed, and slept there all night long. And he just walked right past him like, "Screw you. This is my mom. I want to be with her." And that was him. That was him and me. It was that kind of relationship. That's my favorite memory of him. Because it was like, that was a bad night. And it could have gone bad. And it was like, he was there. And I just felt so comforted. I slept better that night than I had for 2 weeks, Yeah. Good memories. That and you guys, you and him, and Brad, jingling his car keys. Brad will know. Hi, Brad. Brad will know. It's like you guys were just the three of you, the Johnson, and Johnsons. Hello, Johnson. Hi, Johnson. Where's Johnson? Hey, Johnson. It was good times. I loved them. I did. So yeah, those are my good memories.
My favorite memory of Will was this time that I was feeling down because of a heartbreak that I was going through, and I had cut my arms up with a razor a bit, and I was laying in my bed with my arms cut up, and Will came into my bedroom and he found me, and he attempted to nurse me back to health with a Snickers bar, which I thought was just great. Here's my little Willie kitty, named after Will Bryant. He's also mischievous, just as Will was, and a trouble causer. Our song, Kings of the Earth, was about how the merchants of the earth take the luxuries of the earth and they sell them and make themselves rich from the abundance of her luxury.
I pray for you all.
I wish he would have held on a little bit longer. I think he gave up a little too soon. I think he just got scared of life passing us by too fast and couldn't see a future. He loved our tight-knit group of family and friends, but growing up too fast, he didn't like growing up. He's a young soul, and people were starting to get lives together and families, and I don't know. I just wish he would have just hung on a little longer and just can see how life is now. It's awesome. The music's even better. There's so many cool things that he could have learned and enjoyed. I think he just was I don't know, he was confused. So.
Wish I could share everything. I mean, one of my last great memories with him, like as far as like just things we got to do together. He was a very big fan of the band Lamb of God, and it was about 5 days after his birthday, the year before he passed, his last birthday, I guess you'd say. And I got his tickets and I took us to the Lamb of God show. It was I don't think it was the Knitting Factory yet. I think it was still the Big Easy at that point in Boise. But yeah, we had a lot of fun. It was Brad and Will and I all went. I was buying us around at the bar. Right as I buy Will his birthday shot, and we're all drinking Jaeger, the singer on the stage yells, "Someone bring me a shot of Jaeger!" And Will disappears. And if you know Will, the backstage ninja who could just get to any show and be behind the scenes at any show, yeah, the next thing you know, you see the guy take the shot and throw the cup into the audience, and Will comes back up to you and he's like, "Man, do you want to buy me another shot?" Like, that was your birthday shot, dude. Sorry. I didn't come flush. But that was Will, it was the show. It was always about the show, about the music. That was always his driving force. I'm not saying I was a huge fan of all of his stuff, and sometimes I'd give him hell about it, and sometimes I learned a little bit. Then we'd play around together. We'd do little songs up in my upstairs room when we moved to Buell. Had a really nice acoustics in there. So there's so many good times, and I don't know if I should mention the time he overdosed on quite a bit of LSD, and I couldn't take him anymore, so I ended up taking him to his room which he wasn't really supposed to be in, because it was like the woman who owned the house's room that we weren't supposed to go in, but Mom let him stay in there, but it had an attached bathroom. Will goes in the bathroom and throws up in the sink, and it's such a big throw up it doesn't go down the sink, and my mom goes up to check on him later, and he's got these, like, the yellow, I think of them as mom gloves, the yellow dishwashing gloves, and he's like playing his vomit in the sink, and my mom is just so freaked out that I had to go in there and be like, she's like, "Get him out of there!" I'm like, might have to hurt him a little. I had to grab him by his belt and his ponytail and carry him out of the room. I mean, probably not the best thing you want to think about, but I mean, it just seemed hilarious. I ended up making him sleep on my floor by the heating duct, explaining that, there's the one bed, and I'm the lord of the castle, and here is my lady, and oh, you're the court jester, and the court jester historically slept by the fireplace where it's nice and warm. Best place in the house. And he wrote this really just stupid song while he was all messed up. It was like, "I am gone for I am God, I am gone for, I am God for I am gone." But then my friends and I started talking to him while he was doing it. Again, we were playing Dungeons and Dragons, so the lyrics go, "And I puke you, pick me up by my hair, thank you brother, thank you brother." I don't remember the rest. But, well, I think I was 99.
We miss you, Will. You should be here.
And then there was the time, No, I won't say anything bad, He could be a hard child to deal with, you know that, and he could be a hard friend sometimes, I think, to people, but yet he always, like with you and in the voice and the music, you're singing, he can find that one thing, in a person that was them, that they needed to enhance, and that they could act out on. And it was like, wow, You know, to have that kind of insight into people is so amazing, you know, to me. Even a person my age, or, you know, anybody that has insight into another person's psyche or well-being or spirit or whatever, it's just amazing.
Will was a great guy who would do anything for anyone. He was a kind soul. He could also talk a blind man into buying glasses. He was very charismatic. He could convince you that the earth was flat if that's what he had his mind set to. He was a very smart individual and very charismatic and an all-around great guy. He really touched a lot of people's lives and made a huge impact. I mean, when I think about Will Bryant, I think, oh, so many good memories just flooding through. It's hard to put your finger on just one because there are so many. And that was the thing about Will, is that he was going to leave an impression. It might not always be a good impression, but you're definitely not going to forget Will Bryant if you came across him. He was always the center of attention. He had a way of just being so funny and engaging with people that you would just focus on what he was doing because it was usually so funny that you would just be laughing yourself to death. Our song Wake Up was essentially trying to tell people to wake up, open your eyes, take a look around you, and maybe see what's actually going on.
I would say I would tell him that I missed him very much, and he was one of my best buds in the whole world, and I'd give anything to play music with him and be his drummer boy that he loved so much.
Don't do it. It's not worth it, man. I mean, yeah, you might cash the check, but it's the rest of us who are paying it. I think about him every day, and I miss him. I mean, the first few months are hardest, and some days it still feels like it was yesterday. I miss him.
I think I just said it. We miss you, Will. You should be here.
It would be like, come back, but then it would be, don't have ever gone. And I would tell him that. I talk to him every day. I wear his ashes. And I have not got a day that goes by that I don't think about him and miss him. But also just happy thoughts too sometimes, or get laughing, you know, seeing something that I know he would think was funny, you know, or that I would think was funny and he would know it. Yeah. So I have a good thing with him, but I do miss him so much. I think we all do. So. And I just wanted to say one thing. Every year since he has passed, every year, people just keep coming online going, wow, you know, it doesn't matter who they are. You know, these are all people I remember, and they're just people giving support, you know. They're supporting Randy, they're supporting Bob, they're supporting me, you know, and you, and just saying, wow, you know, I miss him, wow. You know, like Steve-O, and people like that just, I think the people that he knew and that knew him were amazing, and I love them all, and I want to thank them all. So, it's my chance.
If I could say anything to Will, it would be, thank you, Will, for your friendship and love. We love you, Will, and miss you so much. You made a huge impact on everyone's life that you touched, and I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to have you in my life, and I am a changed man because of that. So thank you, Will. I love you.
Will was a good friend and an excellent musician. I really enjoyed playing music with him in Misguided for that short time. He had a crazy, unhealthy obsession with my bass amp for some reason, which still got. It's now kind of covered with a bunch of stuff. But it's still in the corner. And if I could, I'd give it to you, Will. Because I haven't gotten rid of it yet. Even though the wife is continually wanting for me to get rid of it. Because I never play it anymore. Just kind of gotten too busy. I married a metalhead. You might have thought that was a pretty cool thing. I listen to a lot different music these days, but still got my punk roots. I always thought it was funny how he would go to Jack in the Box and try to rip off the system a little bit by just substituting a couple of things on a jumbo jack and getting a breakfast jack for like 20 cents less or something like that. Sure do miss you, Will. The anniversaries of your death were pretty hard for the very first maybe 5 years or so. I'd be having a really, really tough time right around March, right around the first part of March. And I just, bad attitude or terrible luck or something happening. And I'd just be like, and all of a sudden it would dawn on me like, oh, wow, this is Will's time. This is like, it's like my body and my mind knew that that this was kind of a sacred time, and as the years have gone on, there's been a year or two that I might have forgotten for a little bit, but I still think of you fondly, Will Bryant, and I miss you, buddy. All right. Bye.
One of my favorite memories of Will Bryant is when he would jam out with Misguided Hatred, and he'd stick his tongue out a little bit and he'd bite it, and then he'd start jamming out and he'd start smacking Mark's cymbal with the head of his guitar, and I always thought that was funny as hell. It's a really good memory I have of him. And also, he would always show up to the house with a bunch of weed, and he'd ask for a pipe and a lighter. And you'd give him the pipe and the lighter, and he'd sit there and load a bowl, and he'd smoke that son of a bitch to himself. And I always thought he was a dickhead for that, but that was Will, and I love the guy, and I miss him. We'll all miss you, Will. I love you, buddy.
Will was just an amazing part of my life, and I'm a better person having had the chance to know him. Our song Power Over Life was essentially about how if someone took away our ability to get food and fresh water, that they could essentially take life away from everyone and have chaos ascend into madness, destruction, and murder. The song Hear Our Cries was a song about the suffering of the people and waiting for a time that our tears would be wiped away and our suffering would be no more, but that all should have everything that they need and be happy. Hear Our Cries was the last song that we recorded together. That night, as me, Brad, and Will, we were recording. It's March 5th. We had finished the guitar, got the drum tracks, and we were laying down the vocal tracks, and we got probably about halfway through the song when we decided it was time to get some rest. So first Brad laid down and went to bed, and then I laid down and went to bed, and little did we know that when we woke up that our dear friend was not going to be with us anymore. He actually wrote his suicide note on the lyrics of our unfinished song. So when we woke up and found him the next morning and called the cops, and the cops came, well, they had to confiscate our song lyrics as evidence in the case as they investigated. And so we were unable to even finish our song Hear Our Cries until weeks down the road when we were finally able to get the lyrics back and finish recording the vocals of the song. Will Bryant was a son, a brother, a father, an uncle, and a friend. He was an artist who was funny and one of a kind. He always had a way to make people smile and shared his love for life with all he knew. He will always be missed by his loved ones and those who were lucky enough to have known him. And he will always be in our hearts from now to eternity.